Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland.
And I'm from the left still, and I'm David Jones.
Tonight we welcome Texas Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, who, by the way, is the highest-ranking public official from the Houston area. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you so much, Gary and David.
So you're the Lyndon Johnson of our era, it seems. You know,
Well, I would rather be thought of as the Ronald Reagan, but Lyndon Johnson did a lot of good for Texas.
I think Lyndon Johnson said that the lieutenant governor's job was the most powerful job in the state of Texas, including his when he was a senator. So, you know, I'm sure you don't want to accept that responsibility, especially since some of your colleagues in the Senate are going to ask you to give up some of your powers when they alter, if they do, the two-thirds rule, which gives the lieutenant governor to control the legislative agenda. Are you going to allow them to take your powers away?
David, I'm not even sure where to start with that question. It's a good thing I like you. You know, you're a very nice guy.
It's a Senate rule.
Yeah, it's a Senate rule, and it's made by the senators. And I don't think right now the senators are going to change that rule. But I'm going to make it very, very clear to the Democrats that there are a lot of bills that the people of Texas want to see passed. And from my perspective, whether we preserve the two-thirds rule is really dependent upon whether we all work together and pass this needed legislation that the people of Texas want.
And that would be the things that Dan Patrick, the senator from Houston, wants to pass.
There you go again.
I mean, I don't know which ones are most important.
Well, for instance, balancing a budget without raising taxes, protecting and preserving all of our essential services. All right. Everywhere I've traveled for the last year and a half as I've ran this race for re-election.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. People don't want Texas to look like Washington, where they're spending $5 for every $3 that they bring in. They want to make sure that our budget's balanced, that we don't raise taxes, and we keep growing this economy so people have opportunity, have jobs, keep improving public education, higher education.
I think those are the easy ones. What I was
You
referring
do?
to, yeah,
Okay.
well, it's in terms of suspending.
And that covers about 80% of the money.
Yeah, in terms of suspending that the blocker bill, if you will. But the ones that are going to be sensitive are going to be the ones that might be insulting to Latinos who live in the state of Texas, especially if we go down the road of Oklahoma, who wants to forfeit cars for people who are driving, you know, an illegal around, and in Georgia where they want to kick everybody out of public education. There will be bills offered like Arizona's, and then you get to decide whether or not you're going to allow them to suspend the rules so that you can vote on those.
David, we've got Republicans and now Democrats who believe in the sanctity of one person, one vote, and are going to vote for, I'm told, the voter ID bill. I see Democrats and Republicans coming together on focusing on border security. The problem with the Arizona bill, although I understand and Texans understand all the frustrations that the good folks of Arizona feel with illegal immigration, where the federal government has been literally sitting on their hands for decades. The problem is that we've got federal courts that have declared it to be unconstitutional. So it doesn't do a lot of good to be pursuing that language. The first week right after the inauguration, I'm going to ask the Senate to pass two resolutions. One, a resolution to call on Congress to convene a constitutional convention and pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. If we've got to balance our budget in Texas, if we've got to balance our budget in the Dewhurst family and your family, Dave, and Gary, your family, dadgummit, Congress ought to do it too. Secondly, I'm going to ask, let's be serious about securing the border. That's what people are upset about. Our border's porous. It's wide open. We've got drugs coming across, transnational gangs, illegal immigration, and people, I think, that are potentially terrorists, people crossing the border with passports from terrorist nations. So I'm going to ask Congress to triple the size of the Border Patrol. We've found empirically people on the ground secure the border. And that cost is less than what illegal immigration is costing us in Texas today.
Yeah, and isn't it true, Governor, that the whole immigration system for the country is broken anyway? We have people who follow the rules and wait years and years and years, and if ever, trying to get into the country, well-qualified people that you'd want in the country, and people who enter illegally we give preferential treatment to. Does it make any sense to you?
It doesn't to me. I think you got to secure the border, and the only way you can secure the border, fences and walls don't work.
But you have to reward people who are making a contribution, as we're doing in Texas, giving in-state tuition opportunities to kids who came here because, though their parents were the responsible parties. They were 3, 6 years old. Now, thanks to the people in the legislature, they can pay in-state tuition. What about expanding, since you're talking about federal issues, and passing that DREAM Act, which Senator Hutchinson was for before she was against it, to give people who were in the military who maybe came here at 6 an opportunity to be citizens. What's wrong with that?
David, that's a wonderful speech. Can I go back and answer his question first and then try and get to yours? All right. We've got to secure the border. There's been talk about that, but Congress has been sitting on their hands, and regrettably, Republican and Democrat presidents have been sitting on their hands. I'm at a loss. We have put $230 million of your money, state taxpayer dollars, in the border over the last 2 sessions on surge operations. We've got more DPS down the border. We've got helicopters now that are going back and forth. We've got overtime with the sheriff's departments. And when we do a surge operation over a portion of the border, 10, 15, 20, 30 miles, guess what happens? Nothing moves. The answer is people. If we triple the size of the Border Patrol, it costs less than what illegal immigration cost in Texas, not counting the other 49 states. This is a no-brainer.
So it's a way to save money on the budget.
Absolutely.
That's a law enforcement legitimate goal. What about telling the gun dealers of the state of Texas who are living
Can I answer your last question, your previous question?
They're running guns to Mexico.
Okay. One of our Hispanic Democrat senators talked to me just yesterday about legislation to set up roving checkpoints, looking at what's cars that are coming north across the border and south into Mexico, all right, which addresses just this. One of the biggest problems for Mexico is the fact that people in America are using recreational drugs, and billions of dollars in cash are going south, and weapons, automatic weapons, are going south. So I understand that point.
Good point.
Let me get back to early on with both of your question, and that is securing the border is the first step. From a homeland security point of view, we're at risk until there's some way on knowing who's here. Not where you are at any moment, not Big Brother, but nothing more than implementing what Congress passed in 2005, the REAL ID Act, okay? And then including everyone here. Only way you're going to get people to come out of the shadows and not reward illegal immigration. I don't believe in amnesty. I don't believe in citizenship cutting in front of the line. But bring people out of the shadows. Bring them out. And then give them a temporary visa, 2 years, 3 years.
So they can work.
So they can work. Because it's not practical. We're not going to round up 10 million people, ship them, and
no.
then.
But Senator Hutchinson was for the DREAM Act and then voted against it. What happened?
Well, just if I can, then it's not citizenship. It's not amnesty. If folks want to be a citizen, because most people came here to work, then go back home. Get in line. Follow the rules. Don't cut in line.
I wanted to ask you, you've talked about the first 2 resolutions you want to pass in the state Senate, and it brings to mind what I consider going on from Washington and its Obama administration's war on Texas. Most latest is the EPA has taken over, usurped the responsibilities of the Texas Department of Natural Resources to regulate and permit our oil refineries and other industries. What are you going to do in the legislature to reassert Texas sovereignty?
Well, Gary, I have this eerie feeling that's no longer, it's an eerie feeling, but I'm convinced it's true. Texas is a target for the Obama administration. There's just too much in coincidence. The moratorium that now is lifted, but really not. It's hard to get drilling permits. It's hurting Texas. All right. The EPA, where they suspended 167 permits of our biggest companies in Texas, which which were talked into releasing their grandfathered permits in 1994, which still exist in other states, grandfathered from the rules of the Clean Air Act, talked into surrendering those to have a flex permit that have been approved over the 16 years by Democrat administrations, Bill Clinton, Republican George Bush. No, this is no coincidence. Obamacare, okay. It will cost us in Texas $27.1 billion.
That's more than we're spending now.
Absolutely. More than we're spending.
Over a decade.
Over a decade.
Yeah.
But by the end of the decade, David, it'll require more new state dollars, GR, than we've ever put in our budget. We'll have to either cut public education, which we don't want to do, or double our taxes.
And that GR stands for General Revenue.
State dollars. That's why it's so important. That's why it's so important. And we talked about it in your show the last time.
Is it anti-government? Is it anti-federal government for the sake of publicity to refuse to create a high-risk pool when we had the opportunity just last year? Is it anything other than secessionist analysis to refuse to create an exchange so people can go into the market and shop for good health care? And as I understand it, we're the only state that is refusing to accept the rules, the EPA rules, regarding controlling for greenhouse gases. The only state. So where are we? We're an outlier.
No, and no. You're wrong on your facts on both. First of all, a number of states have chosen to have the government set up this health exchange rather than the state itself. In the meantime, and just to go back in your memory to what we talked about in our show before, we have to change the way we pay doctors and hospitals. We're the only developed country in the world, very quickly, we're the only developed country in the world that pays our doctors and hospitals based upon how many procedures are done on you. It's crazy. Who wants that? And that's why we spend more money per capita on health care in America than all the other developed countries in the world, 2.5 times more than the average. If we go back and pay our doctors and hospitals more for good results, more for following best practices, 45% of our doctors don't follow the best practices. Dartmouth Institute, Mayo's Clinic, Intermountain have all shown, the models show we can save up to a third. That's enough money to improve health care, to assist all those, not just the 30 million that are covered under Obamacare, but the 51 million that don't have any help. That's the answer.
Governor,
market.
What are we going to do about the war on Texas? I mean,
the war on Texas.
How are y'all going to, from Austin, how are you going to fight the administration and the Democrats in the Senate?
The two ways we've been fighting over the last year, Gary. First of all, we're going to file suit. I am one of the plaintiffs in more lawsuits I've ever been in my entire life. All right, we've got, it's not just EPA, but here they are taking away our permitting after the biggest plants, the biggest companies in Texas, their permits have been approved over 16 years. So
you sue. What else? I mean, what else can you do?
Well, and let me just throw in one more irritant.
Maybe he's going to run for president.
One more
That'd be the
irritant.
answer.
There is another job.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, so
but
get rid of Obama.
But think about this education stimulus bill. Unbelievable. $10 billion. All right, $10 billion to go out to the states in September last year. Now, Texas pays 8.4% of all the federal taxes. And so $10 billion, we should get about 840 million. Just mystically, our allocation was 830 million. Lloyd Doggett put in an amendment that Nancy Pelosi passed, all right, that treats 49 states one way, Texas differently. The Republicans...
We may be paying a price for Governor Perry's announcements
No,
as he ran for president and tried to be to the right of Deborah Medina and the Tea Party.
Oh.
We may be paying a price for that. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Listen to you, David. Listen to you. The answer is standing tall, saying, no, this is not legal. It's not legal. It's not constitutional to single one state out. It's not constitutional after you've already approved material reliance, a basic concept in common law. After all these companies have been relying on these permits for years and years, that's why.
He's talking like a lawyer now.
That's why it's important that throughout the country, people did what they did. The tsunami on November 2nd, that's the way to change.
But Governor, your first phone call has to be to the leaders in the House of Representatives who are talking about cutting transportation monies that might be coming our way for mass transit and highways. I mean, if they get their way, you're going to lose. And as the last I checked, we're in trouble as far as financing public transportation in this state as it is.
David, just coincidentally, I'm going to Washington a week from Wednesday. There are a number of things I want to talk to this new majority in Congress about, and to make sure that they understand that all the states need to be treated equally. And we're a free market state. We believe in limited government, and we want the federal government to simply treat us fairly.
Well, in light of that, do you think it's fair to ask the Republican majority in the House to at least consider passing legislation, for example, that just sends the gas tax money back without a federal government take to the states?
I'd love to
and let
see
them
that.
have it. You get everything you've sent, and you
I'd
go
love
spend
to
it the
see
way
it.
you want.
That's Gary's Dream Act.
Dream Act.
Yes, I
I'd
like
love
that.
to see that, because we're not, obviously, our federal taxes are going to Washington, and even in the gas tax, we're not getting, but 93 cents or so back on
And
each
we get
dollar.
restrictions, we get
That's
mandates, which make it a lot more
That's
expensive.
right.
Let's talk about the budget, okay? Because that's the big deal in Austin. I mean, there's other issues, redistricting and the others, but really the budget's the big thing. That's why the legislature gets together every 2 years.
Sure.
Estimates are that there is a shortfall compared to what? And of course, I don't even know what we're comparing it to, but the pundits say 15 to 25 billion we don't have to spend. So whatever that number is, how are you going to deal with it?
And it's one of the worsts in the states of these United States is our gap.
But ours is a
What we're
2-year
losing
gap, but ours is a
versus our
2-year.
general revenue, it's huge.
David, I like you. There you go again. Our state, because I think the things we've been doing, I know the things we've been doing over the last 7 or 8 years, was the last state to go into the recession. We were still blowing and going in 2008. We created more new jobs than the rest of the country put together. So we didn't go technically into the recession until the end of 2008, early 2009. So in relative terms, look, I feel for everybody that's lost their jobs. That's why I put a program in the budget last year, Texas Back to Work. The state of Texas is paying employers to hire unemployed workers, okay? Because it saves the state of Texas money rather than being on the hook for unemployment compensation for $8,000. We can pay them less than that to get those folks back to work. But we're doing, most of the other states, David, had these big budget shortfalls in 2008, 2009, and 2010. We're getting all the pain that happened to the other states over 3 years, all in 1 year. Now, luckily, and I'm not patting myself on the back because the other legislative leaders agreed, but in 2007, I made the legislature save $9 billion. Last year, let's not touch the rainy day fund, which will be almost right at $10 billion.
You're going to have to spend that
We'll have to
to
spend,
balance this budget?
We'll have to spend part of that. I want to make sure that we save some of the rainy day fund, and it grows each year, so that we'll be able to balance in 2013. That's my responsibility too. But we're going to be able to balance this budget and provide our essential services, get very, very close, if not to exceed, what we're spending on public education right now. Right now, what we're spending, what we appropriated, take care of our obligations in Medicaid.
Where are all these cuts going to come from? I mean, you've got a lot of money still left after you take $5 billion out of rainy day. I mean, and most people are thinking that these cuts are going to be robbing 9-year-olds of educations, and sick kids are going to be sicker because there's chip cuts.
Emptying the prisons of everybody, that's the
People
usual
may,
horror
in
stories.
Arizona, they took people off of transplant lists who are now going to die because they wanted to balance their budget. Is that where Texas goes?
I think all around America, the phenomenon that we saw in November of this year, this tsunami, call it Tea Party members, if you may, call it independents, call it Republicans, call it conservative Democrats, are tired of elites saying, oh, but you can't cut government. you've always got to keep increasing government. I find it in Austin that how dare you, David, how dare you not automatically increase the size of state government by 10%? Okay, now what family? Quite frankly, the Dewhurst family is not expanding their spending by 10%. Most smart businesses I know aren't just automatically spending 10% more. They live within their means. The problem with Washington, and if you got an hour show, I'll be glad to talk to you about that sometime, but they're spending $5 for every $3 they take in. Look, we got the lowest tax, one of the lowest tax rates in the country. All right, that's good. We've held our budget increase in GR to 3.3%. We've created more jobs each year for the last 2 years. More people are coming to Texas. Any other state in the country, 1,300 people a day. And that's because we've created predictability. We're keeping our taxes low. We've got good infrastructure. We're continuing to invest in and improve public education and higher education. We want to grow this state. We want to make sure that everyone who wants to work can have a job.
There's no revenue enhancements that you're considering. There's
Tax
no
increases.
There's no elimination of exemptions under the sales tax that you're considering. It's going to be $15 billion across the board, and tough luck for all of those who don't have a lobbyist to protect their interests. I don't know where you get the money unless you do.
David.
So higher education must take a hit.
David, if someone wants a lobbyist and they don't have a lobbyist, call me. I'll be there. The people of Texas have a lobbyist in David Dewhurst. They have a lobbyist, I believe, in all of their elected representatives. We've got a good group in the legislature that care. All right, we're not going to have to cut the budget $15 billion. Let's go back to 2002. 2003. A lot of talk. I come in as a rookie lieutenant governor.
Similar crisis.
$10 billion deficit. $10 billion. First of all, it's not a deficit because in Texas compared to California, we balance our budget. We don't lay it off on commercial paper. That's right. You know what the $10 billion shortfall was? New spending. You know how we balanced our budget? We cut spending $2 billion, reallocated more money into public education, took care of our Medicaid and our health care, the safety net under people that deserve it. So we took care of them, held our spending flat on higher education. Now, this year, we're going to have to tighten the belt in higher education. But I'm talking to the chancellors, I'm talking to the presidents to see how we can do this for the least amount of reductions possible. Again, my goal is to come close to or appropriate more money into public education than we did last year.
But does a situation like this that we have with the economy, which of course affected tax revenues, does that cause the legislature to look, I guess, with a sharper eye toward the functions of government and some of the things you all are funding that you may not want to be funded anymore? Or, for example, the prison system. I mean, you all did a great job reforming the Texas Youth Council, the juvenile prison system, reduced state expenditures considerably there, got a lot of the kids out of the system and redid it. Maybe we need to take a fresh look at the prison system. I know Texas Public Policy Foundation's done some great things in that.
Gary, thank you for using those words, because that's what I say in virtually all of my speeches. Look, in the 2003 budget shortfall turned out to have a real silver lining. We went through and looked at not just agencies, not across the board cuts. We looked at programs to see where our priorities had shifted, just like any business. Just like any family has to do. That's what we're in the process doing. I spent 4 hours yesterday, 6 hours the day before. I've been working on this. We've seen this coming, in my office at least, for the last 2 years. So that's why we saved money. We've been looking at where have we shifted priorities? Where are programs that previously had a lot of importance that are no longer as important today? All right. We shouldn't be funding those, all right? We should put our money where the people want their essential services, what are really important to them. And
we can either fund higher education or fund prisons and security guards. That's a trade-off.
No, sir. No, sir. Nice try, but no, sir, you're 100% wrong. We're going into each one of those and say, fine, where are there programs that literally are not supported by the people, don't have the priority, the agencies don't need them? Where can we tighten the belt? Just like any family, just like any business, we'll have to do.
I think I always think about adding income to my budget rather than just
well, you hope to.
Cutting. So,
well, you hope to.
If you invest properly, you should be able to bring income in.
Well, at the same, you see the difference between you and me, David, is that you can, by investing, you can invest more and bring in more income if you're constantly, as a business or as an individual. I'm the only traditional business person elected out of 29 statewide elected officials. In your business, in your personal, in your family budget, saying, what do we no longer really need to do? Where can we tighten the belt some?
I think he just won that argument.
I think he did, David.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for being with us.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. We invite you to visit our home online at HoustonPBS.org. Click on the local program bar at Red, White, and Blue. Read about the show, the guests, Gary's follow-up discussion. And until next time, get informed and get active.